Spinal cord. The spinal cord is the lower continuation of medulla oblongata. It is elongated, cylindrical structure which is flattened antero-posteriorly and is present in the upper two-thirds of the vertebral canal. Measurements. The spinal cord measures about 45 centimeters in adult males, and in females it's about 42 centimeters. Extent. The spinal cord extends as the downward continuation of the medulla oblongata at the level of upper border of posterior arch of first cervical vertebra to the lower border of first lumbar vertebra. The lower end of the spinal cord ends as a tapering structure. Known as conus medullaris. Coverings of spinal cord. The spinal cord is surrounded by three membranes known as the spinal meninges. It consists of dura mater, arachnoid matter, and pia mater from outside inwards. Dura mater. The dura mater is the outermost covering. The spinal cord extends from foramen magnum to the lower border of second sacral vertebra. It is made up of a single layer which consists of meningeal layer. There is a space between the spinal cord and the vertebral canal and is known as the epidural space. It contains loose areolar tissue, semi-liquid fat, and internal vertebral venous plexus. The space between dura mater and arachnoid mater is known as subdural space. It contains a layer of capillary fluid. The dura mater forms a pouch inferior to the conus medullaris, called as the lumbar cistern, containing the cauda equina. Arachnoid matter. It is the middle layer of spinal meninges. It is made up of thin, delicate, transparent membrane with numerous fine branching, giving an appearance of a spider web. It is continuous above with the arachnoid matter of the brain and below it extends up to the lower border of second sacral vertebra. Pia mater. It is the innermost covering of the spinal cord. It is highly vascularized and closely invests the spinal cord except for the ligamenta denticulata and filum terminale. The pia mater continues below as a thread-like prolongation. Filum terminale. The space between pia mater and arachnoid mater is called subarachnoid space, which is filled with cerebrospinal fluid. It is continuous above with the subarachnoid space around the brain. Distal to the spinal cord, the subarachnoid space around phylum terminale becomes voluminous and forms a pool of CSF called lumbar cistern. Process of pia mater. It is also called as special parts of pia mater. Phylum terminale. It is a delicate, shiny, white thread-like structure extending from the apex of the conus medullaris to the dorsal aspect of the first coccygeal vertebra. It is 20 centimeters long, mainly composed of non-nervous fibrous tissue, but in the upper part, rudimentary nerve fibers of second, third and fourth coccygeal nerves are embedded along with it. The central canal of the spinal cord extends 5 to 6 millimeters in the upper part of the phylum terminale. Phylum terminale consists of two parts: phylum terminale internum, phylum terminale externum. Phylum terminale internum is about 15 centimeters long and is present within the dural sheath. It reaches as far as the lower border of second sacral vertebra. It is surrounded by the cauda equina. Phylum terminale externum is about 5 centimeters in length. It lies outside the dural sheath. It lies at the level of second sacral vertebra and extends till the dorsal aspect of first coccygeal vertebra. Subarachnoid septum. Subarachnoid septum. It is a mid-sagittal fenestrated septum of pia mater. Connects the dorsal surface of the spinal cord with the arachnoid matter. Linea splendens. It is a septal modification of pia mater which is connected to the anterior median fissure. Ligamenta denticulata. These are two transparent tooth-like thickened bands of pia mater. These are present one on each side and extends laterally from the pia mater, covering the spinal cord between the dorsal and the ventral roots. There are 21 such processes on each side which pierces the arachnoid mater and is attached to the inner surface of the dura mater between the emergence of the spinal nerves. It anchors the spinal cord to the subarachnoid space. Extent. The ligamenta denticulata extends from the level of foramen magnum to the level between T12 and L1 spinal nerves. External features of the spinal cord. The spinal cord presents extent. The ligamenta denticulata extends from the level of foramen magnum to the level between T12 and L1 spinal nerves. External features of the spinal cord. The spinal cord presents fissures and sulci on the external aspect. On the anterior aspect of the spinal cord, there is an anterior or ventral median fissure, which extends deeply to the central grey matter and divides the anterior half of the spinal cord into two separate cylinders. The anterior spinal artery runs in the fissure. On the anterior aspect, it also presents two anterolateral or ventrolateral sulci. The posterior aspect presents a faint longitudinal groove known as posteromedian or dorsomedian sulcus, and two posterolateral or dorsolateral sulci and two postero-intermediate sulci. The fibers of the ventral root emerges out from the anterolateral sulcus, and that of the dorsal root arises from the dorsolateral sulcus. The dorsal root presents a ganglia known as the dorsal root ganglion. Each root is made up of a number of rootlets. The external surface also presents the attachment of 31 pairs of spinal nerves from the sides of the spinal cord. There are 8 spinal nerves in the cervical region, 12 in the thoracic region, 5 in the lumbar region, 5 in sacral region, and 1 in the coccygeal region. Enlargements of the spinal cord. The spinal cord presents two fusiform enlargements. One is the cervical and other is the lumbar. These enlargements are due to the presence of large number of motor neurons in these regions, which forms the brachial and lumbar plexus to supply the muscles of the upper limb and lower limb. Cervical enlargement extends from C4 to T2 segments of the spinal cord, and the widest circumference is at the level of C6 segment, which is around 3 to 4 centimeters. Lumbar enlargement extends from L2 to S3 spinal segments of the spinal cord, and widest circumference is at the level of S1 segment, which is around 3.5 centimeters. Cauda equina. It represents a bundle of spinal nerves around the filum terminale and consisting of lower 4 pairs of lumbar, 5 pairs of sacral, 1 pair of coccygeal nerves. It resembles the shape of a horse tail, so it is named as the cauda equina, meaning horse's tail in Latin.